3, 4.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. This is Jewish Talk, streaming live from the NASA Community College on 90.3. Also on the iHeart and iTunes app. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. Don't forget you can join us live in the studio right now, as many are doing right away, by going to our Facebook Live. Hi there, and of course, my name is Rabbi Pearl. Shalom. I'm waving to everybody, not only those who are watching us on Facebook, but also everybody who is on the radio. Thank you so much, and as many know, that I have a great face for radio. So good morning to Gene Branstein. Good morning to Dr. Kilshevsky, Jonathan Wolf, all the way from snowy New Jersey. I don't want to rub it in, Jonathan, but today on Long Island we have rain instead of snow. And good morning to Harvey Kipnis, who's out there. He's so upset. He had his snow shoveling operation ready there with 15 people to clean up the backyard and the front yard and the street. And there he is, Nebuch. He has to listen to my program today, and all we have is rain. So the calendar on the wall says it is January, but also it is the Jewish month of Shvat, which means that Tu B'Shvat, the 15th day, which translates the New Year for trees, is coming up. And dear friends, it's coming up tomorrow, starting tonight, January 21st. This marks the beginning of the growing season for fruit trees. It is a day that when we thank the Almighty God for the utility, the beauty, and the pleasure that trees and fruits in particular give us. Tu B'Shvat, the New Year for trees. So let's begin with Happy New Year, trees. See, in the land of Israel, the almond trees are blossoming at this time. But guess what? You and me live on Long Island, and all we see today is rain and bare branches. Why would this be? So what are we celebrating? It's because many of the celebrations in the course of the Jewish year, irrespective of where we actually live, follow the climatic cycle of the Holy Land. But let's get into it. Why would we pause tonight and tomorrow and celebrate trees? Well, let's start from the Baal Shem Tov's thought. He explains that just as the earth conceals the greatest treasures beneath its surface, both in the form of precious metals and gems that lie buried in the depth of the earth, as in the productive energies locked in its soil, so too each of us has the capacity to discover huge reserves and potentials of good and holiness hidden within each and every one of us. So we simply need to mine the spiritual treasures hidden beneath our mundane exterior, dig up the earth of our surface selves to plant trees, which of course reflects good deeds that will take root, blossom, and multiply. So on Tu B'Shvat, we are reminded to dig for a deeper purpose in every basic activity that we do. That is why we have blessings for all sides, all kinds of activities, and laws for even more. Why? So that there should never be just another day in the office, so to speak. So by carefully looking at the Torah, we discover many opportunities to connect to God meaningfully in every aspect of our lives. As long as we don't leave our earth untilled, as long as we do not accept life as it comes, but make an actual effort to actualize our potentials, we're going to find great treasures. For example, we can take an opportunity to make a blessing on our lunch. We can make an effort to speak kind and encouraging words to someone at work who needs them. We can give charity on the way into or the way out of the workplace. We could also, in our financial dealings, we could adopt a more focus on insisting of ourselves and others on absolute honesty in every aspect. So you see, when we live this way, we mine true treasure from the very bedrock of our souls. We plant trees of godliness in the soil of our lives, which eventually will give off godly fruits. So again, the 15th day of Shvat on the Jewish calendar, celebrating this year, starting this evening, all day tomorrow, January 21st, is the day that marks the beginning of a new year for trees, and is commonly known as Tu B'Shvat. This day marks the season in which the earliest blooming trees in the land of Israel emerge from their winter sleep, and to begin a new fruit-bearing cycle. How do we celebrate? How do we mark this day? We mark it by eating fruit, particularly from the kinds that are singled out by the Torah in its praise of the fruits that grow, the bounty of fruit that grows in the Holy Land, which includes grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. And on this day, we pause and remember that each of us are compared to a tree of the field, as we'll soon explain. And it's reflected on the many lessons that we can derive from our botanical friend here, the tree. So, when was the last time you wished a tree Happy New Year? Why do we celebrate their New Year so much later than ours, for example? And I'd like to first pause for a moment and say hello to everybody who's joined us on the radio. And allow me to take a look on Facebook to see who has joined us. Shalom from Dorothy Rothstein. Wow, thank you very much. Good morning to Joanne. And Howard Bruce Neufeld. Mark Solomon has joined us from Little River, South Carolina. Good morning from Greta. Thank you, Greta. And Michelle and Larry Polonetsky. Wow. And Jonathan Wolf, of course, our learned friend, quotes from the Mishnah. You can go to our Facebook, just Rabbi Pearl, and see all these wonderful scholarly response. And good morning, Larry. Thank you so much. To Dr. Lisa Rosenberg. Ann Parker. Oh my goodness, Ann Parker says her birthday is Tu B'Shvat. So dear friends, let's take a big moment to say happy birthday, dear Ann Parker. And as we'll continue now, we will learn the significance of Tu B'Shvat. And certainly, Ann, what is your Jewish name, Ann? But because you really have all the blessings that Tu B'Shvat represents to all of us. Hello again from to Jonathan Wolf, who points out that, and every time to take the Torah out in the synagogues, we say, Eitz Chaim Hila Machazikim by. The Torah is compared to a living tree. Thank you so much. So please, everybody, keep sending in your thoughts as we now continue discussing why in the Jewish calendar, tomorrow, MLK Day, on the Jewish calendar is the 15th day. It's a full moon, and we all know what's going to happen tonight. And in the eastern side of the United States, we have all this amazing eclipses going on and all the different combinations. But on the other hand, it's the 15th day of a Jewish month. It's a full moon, and we are celebrating the New Year for trees. Why is it? Why today? Why do we celebrate the trees today? It's got to do really with the rainy season in Israel, which commences in the festival of Sukkot. It takes 4 months for the rains to saturate the soil, nurture the trees, and coax them into producing fruits. This is important to know if you're planning to give your tithing of fruits, as was done in the land of Israel in biblical times, because the required tithes vary from year to year. It's also important if you're a tree and you're looking for something to celebrate. So we humans can also celebrate, and we do celebrate along with the trees. After all, the Torah says, man is compared to the tree of the field. We are nurtured by deep roots. Guess where our roots, just like the tree has its roots, how far our roots go back? Well, our roots go back to Abraham and Sarah. We reach upwards to the heavens while standing firmly on the ground. When we do all of this right, guess what happens? We produce fruits that benefit the world, namely our good deeds. So what are some of the traditional observances during this night and tomorrow? We eat some fruit on this day. Best if you could get some of those fruits of which Israel is famous: olives, dates, grapes, figs, pomegranates. Some have the custom of eating carob. And the master Kabbalist, the Arizal, he would actually make sure to eat 15 types of fruit on this day, because this is the 15th day of the month, 15 types of fruits. And there are many who follow what is known as a Tu B'Shvat Seder. So, it's important for us to know this date and to celebrate this. And we'd like to say again, happy birthday to Ann Parker. I wonder if we know what her Jewish name, Ann. Is your Jewish name Chana? I'm correct. I'm reading now on Facebook. Thanks, Anna. Your Jewish name is Chana Malka Bas Chaya Zisel, whose 6th yahrzeit is today. My goodness, Baruch Hashem. So Hashem should bless you, Chana Malka, with long life. Your mother's neshama should have an aliyah, and all of us be blessed by her presence on this world, and certainly through her family. So we say happy birthday to you, Anne. And let's continue now. If anybody has any questions or thoughts about this, feel free to actually chime in here. We're on Facebook as we continue. You see, trees have played a central role in creation from the very beginning, according to the Torah. Right? You all know the beginning of the Torah and Bereshit, the story of creation. What's some of the highlights there in the story in Bereshit? Names the tree of life. That's an integral part of the Garden of Eden, along with the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Sadly, Adam and Eve's downfall came from partaking of one tree that was supposed to keep away from. They were subsequently booted out of the Garden of Paradise, a place defined by trees. Gan Eden was really a place of trees. It's no accident that trees have a central role in this seminal episode of history all the way then. Like, why would this whole thing be there? Why put this tree in? There's many, many aspects of this. So why is that an essential point of Adam and Eve's, all the way to the beginning of creation, that we had to deal with trees? For there is something very special. It defines the very purpose of creation. It is through trees. One of the most basic lessons of God's creation in this world is that it was an act of total giving on God's part. Since God is infinite being, he has no needs. So what does he need the world for? God didn't create the world because he was bored or wanted some puny humans to praise him. In Chabad philosophy, God created the world for us to participate in, to make this a world and a boat for the Almighty God. It was to bring out our participation, our involvement. If the universe was to revert back to nothingness, the way it was before creation, God would still be the same. He doesn't lack anything, being infinite, whole, and perfect. Therefore, creation was a one-way street of giving by God to us. That's why the Talmud describes the world as Olam Chesed Yibana. The world was created on kindness. It was about giving. As children, you may have been exposed to this idea of giving from the beautiful and moving book called The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. I wonder if Kim remembers that book. Thank you, Kim. The book follows the lives of a boy and his apple tree. In his childhood, the boy enjoys playing with a tree, climbing her trunk, swinging from her branches, eating from the apples. However, as the young boy grows older and his interests mature, now he plays with Xboxes, he spends less time with the tree and tends to visit her only when he needs something from her at various stages of his life. In an effort to make the boy happy in each of these periods, when the boy shows up, the tree gives him parts of herself, which he can transform into material things. So what does the tree do? The tree now provides apples that this young boy, who's getting older, can sell so he can make some money as a young man. She now provides him with branches so he can build a house when he's older and needs to provide for his family. She tells him to cut her trunk to make a boat when he hits middle ages and wishes to escape. With every act of giving, the tree was happy. However, after this, she did not see the boy for many years until he finally reappears, this young boy, as an elderly, tired old man. By this time, the tree is no longer has anything to give. After all giving away its trunk, giving away its branches, giving away its fruit, all remains is the stump. But the boy states that all he wants is a quiet place to sit and rest. This is one thing the tree can still give. So the boy sits quietly down on the stump, and in that single moment, both were happy. See, on Tisha B'Av, the trees are now at the stage where they're sufficiently able to develop fruit to give. That's the lesson of Tu B'Shvat, to be in the position of giving. Giving and taking defines who we are more than anything else. Giving and taking are essential in developing any relationship with another. But we always need to find the proper balance between the two. On the one hand, we cannot just be a taker, and thereby not develop any independence for ourselves. On the other hand, by giving too much away and of ourselves, we may lose the very definition of who and what we are, as the sad tree did in the story. So it's noteworthy, important for us, that the reason the Talmud gives Tu B'Shvat as a date designated as the New Year for trees is that trees stop absorbing water from the ground. Instead of, what do they do at this date? They draw nourishment from their own sap. If you ever go to one of these farms where they have trees, when they take out their special, I've forgotten right now what it's called, but it's interesting when they take the sap out of the tree, it becomes some sort of it's used, I've forgotten what the word is, but it's interesting. It's during this time, in January, February, where they they have these containers, and it drips. It'll come to my mind what the trees can provide. It comes specifically during this time of the year when the tree itself can provide it, and because the tree is in that position. And I believe it is the sap that comes out of it, but there's also a special there's special farms where they this time of the year where the trees milk with an M comes to mind. But in essence, let's see if anybody of our wonderful listeners can help me out on this point. We want to say hello from Dr. Stephen Shaw from all the way from Newton, Massachusetts. And, of course, to Sherry Ann Rice. Good morning, Sherry. And let's see now. There's in essence, Tu B'Shvat, trees become self-sufficient on this day. They have enough within themselves, so to speak, and no longer depend on the soil. They have spent the necessary time taking, and are now at a stage when they're sufficiently able to develop fruit to give. So let's learn from the beloved trees to take when we need, to give when we can, and to give whatever we may have, even if it's just merely the stump of what we used to have, and thereby reap the happiness and the joy inherent in being able to give. So I want to share with you some of the life lessons that we can learn from trees. There's so much we can do, and there's one favorite theme that the Lubavitcher Rebbe had, is that we should look at a tree and remind ourselves that we are in so many ways like a tree. Just like a tree has roots, the tree has a trunk, a tree has its branches, the tree has its fruits, and in the fruits are the seeds. And so too, we can see ourselves as well. You know, the least glamorous side, if you go to those famous forests with the sequoias and all the very tall trees, nobody goes there to check out how deep the roots are, because the roots are less glamorous than the rest of the tree, of how tall it is and how wide it is and the kind of fruits. But guess what? Without those roots, that tree wouldn't be standing. And comparative to the height, that's how strong and wide those roots must be. And so too, just as a tree only grows healthy, tall, wide, and giving of its fruits and its seeds if it has very strong roots. So the roots of our personality is our faith, our deep commitment to what life is, and our faith in the Almighty God. And the stronger and the wider and the deeper and more committed our faith is, the stronger we can grow. And therefore, from those less than, those concealed roots, starts to grow the trunk. The trunk, of course, of the tree is our personality, of who we are and the things that we accomplish. Just like, how do you know how many years? I remember as a child, our parents would take us to the forest and tell us all, show us the wonders of God's world, of the trees, and point out that the rings inside of a tree represent the years of how old the tree is. The many rings represents that. So in a certain sense, we grow, we expand on the many good deeds. And the more deeds that we have, the stronger we are and the taller we grow. So that's an appreciation of the roots, is our faith in God. The trunk represents what we're accomplishing ourselves. But the ultimate fruit tree is not just simply to be very tall and beautiful, but to be able to have branches that produce fruits. But even that, the fruits itself are very attractive, red, orange, all the different fruits. Now, but that is only, you could say, a packaging. What's the ultimate purpose? That those fruits can be eaten. The seeds are now carried away from the trees into further locations, and more trees can grow. So the ultimate successful, healthy tree, if it provides the seeds from which more trees can grow. So ultimately, the definition of a person, a litmus test of a successful life, not only in the simpler sense of being blessed with children that go on into the future, but also that one's personality, one's behavior, one's conduct is something that is attractive to others, just like the fruit colors, attractive to the birds and the bees and everything else that has to go on. But also in that attraction should be providing healthy seeds that people are proud to plant in their own personalities and want to look up to you. To say, this is a mensch, this is someone we can look up to, we can learn from. So on this Tu B'Shvat, we have many lessons. This is how the Rebbe would look and discuss the celebration in that manner. And let me share with you some other ideas as well on what life lessons we can learn from maple. That's the word, just came to me. Maple. Dear friends, like Gewalt, I had a senior moment, but the maple trees, when do they actually allow this sap maple to come? In the January, February times, because it's now ready to give. It's not in other times. It's specifically if it's ready, it's taken all that's needed, and now it's turned into a giving tree. And that's an important part of Tu B'Shvat, reminding us to be givers, not just to be takers. So here's some of the life lessons that we can learn from the tree itself. Because in Jewish wisdom, it's full of insights that compares us to trees, and urging us to learn from the trees from our deep-rooted forest friends. So now that we're on the eve of Tu B'Shvat, Jewish New Year for trees, it's time for us to spring into our step, branch out, and turn over a new leaf. No pun intended. Let's look at some green gems here. Let's be diligent, like an almond. You see, the almond tree is one of the important symbols of Tu B'Shvat. That is the first tree to blossom, always right on time. And almond trees. It's an essential quality, is actually encapsulated in the Hebrew name for a almond. It's called shaked. And that comes from the Hebrew word, or the verb, lishkod, which means diligence. So in Hebrew, when we want to describe someone who's very reliable and very punctual, we call them a shakdan. Not a shotgun, a shakdan. Someone who you can rely upon. He's diligent. So first lesson I would say that I'm learning from reminding myself of an almond is to be punctual, to be diligent, and to be reliable. Another idea of a tree is, if you ever visited Israel, you'll notice that the date palms are one of the few trees that flourish anywhere. I know if you really want to go see some other date palms, you go down to Florida, but that's also the land of our fathers in a certain sense. You'll notice these date palms grow anywhere, even in salty marshland of the Dead Sea where nothing else grows. In fact, Israel produces a third of its date harvest from the shores of the Dead Sea. And what do dates produce? Honey. The sweetest things of all. King David speaks of a righteous person will flourish like a date palm. So what do we learn from a tree, and certainly from a date palm? Even if you find yourself in the most bitter of places, stand tall, stick to your values, and share some sweetness for others to enjoy. Another interesting idea that I would say we can learn from the tree is we're having a birthday in the middle of the winter. What is that reminding us of? That new life is just around the corner. Just like trees, we all go through our personal winter when productivity feels on the wane. How do we bring back ourselves back to life? Well, let's look at the tree. The tree may look bare and dead, but don't be deceived. The sap is already rising in the tree trunks, and the first signs of life are about to appear. We may not see the fruit yet, but the inspiration is there. As long as we stay connected to our roots, still thirsty for inspiration even through the winter, Tu B'Shvat comes around and reminds us the new hope and new life is not too far away. Another idea, I would say, is challenging times brings out the best in us. When an olive, one of the things that we do, what we eat, and we remind ourselves is we have olives. Olives, when it's crushed, it produces oil, which lights up the world, reminding us, although we would rather a smooth ride in life, the challenges of life can often bring out the best in us. That's why we are such kvetchers, because we kvetch, and through the kvetching, out comes the best. The Zohar explains that Torah study is only really absorbed when one makes sacrifices to learn it. No one's looking for tough times, but when they come along, don't lose hope. We never know what light might emerge. A lesson from the olive. What about joy through humility? Let's think about the grapes that we have, the wine or the grapes that we have on Tu B'Shvat. Grapes produce wine, which brings us happiness. The grape doesn't mind being trodden on, squeezed to a pulp, filtered, stored, and left in a dark barrel to ferment for years. Oi, do they charge us through the nose or through the mouth for that expensive wine that's been fermented for so many years? Does any other fruit suffer such treatment? The grape is the king of all fruits precisely for its quality of humility. One day it will turn into wine, soar in price, and gewalt. It brings joy to the world. Our rabbis teach us that we drink wine on so many occasions in Jewish life to instill this message of humility learnt from the grape. When we are prepared to set our egos aside and start to see all of life as a gift, the blessing we have brings joys to our eyes. Wow, beautiful, beautiful ideas, my friends. Let me continue. I haven't finished yet. It's, as they say, it's not over until it's over. So, another idea that I would learn from Tu B'Shvat is never stop searching for answers. You see, the secret to knowledge is to never stop searching. I often tell my wonderful friends and community, there's absolutely no reason to be an ignorant person today. Through the internet, through what's available in print and online, knowledge is available to everybody. And the secret, of course, is to never stop searching for it. The Talmud learns this from a fig, which, unlike other fruit trees, ripens little by little over a period of time. The more you search, the more you will find. The Torah is a tree of life. As long as we hold on to it and are willing to ask questions, it will always continue to provide us with the answers. Another important thing that I would say that I can learn from Tu B'Shvat is don't be so judgmental. You see, one of the fruits Israel is blessed with, one of the things that the 7 kinds is called a pomegranate. And pomegranate has hundreds of seeds hidden away in secret chambers. When we look at somebody and we look at them on the outside, you say, this guy's full of it. He's empty, he's an empty head, he knows nothing, and we can jump to conclusions. Well, let's learn from the pomegranate. Just like the pomegranate is hidden, has hundreds of seeds hidden inside of itself, there are hundreds of hidden pomegranate seeds inside every one of us, representing the goodness that just has to be tapped, so to speak, and brought out to the surface. Another idea, no pun intended, but is to take a bite, so to speak, of every opportunity. The apple tree teaches us to sense that when an opportunity is on the horizon, grab it with both hands. King Solomon compared us at the giving of Torah at Mount Sinai to an apple tree. In many Hasidic communities, on Friday night they eat apples. It's called tapuach, a gathering of apples. Why? Why apples? We all know that on the high holidays, for example, in Rosh Hashanah, we have apples. Well, like an apple tree that blossoms appear before it even produces the leaves, so too, we were so willing to accept Mount Sinai even before we knew what was going on. Because never give up on the opportunities that come our way, because we risk losing that. That's a lesson that we can learn from the apple tree. And of course, true beauty is always found within. And we can go and see appearances can be deceiving. The Zohar praises the walnut as a fruit that keeps its secrets well hidden. A thick shell seems inedible, but if inside you'll find, and so too, this Tu B'Shvat reminds us how careful we must be not to be judgmental and not to come to the wrong conclusions. And deep down, we can always find the good in everything. And everything has a purpose, and never to make light of the fact that God has blessed us with fruits. And let me conclude. In 1896, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, whose yahrzeit was last Wednesday, he was once walking in the field on a country resort with his father. The crops were about to grain, and they were talking of deep ideas, and his father was telling him every movement of every single ear of grain and blade of grass is by divine providence. So the young, they became the previous Rebbe, thinking, found himself in great contemplation. He plucked a leaf off his tree and he ripped it up. His father was really upset with him. He said, and he told him, every leaf is created being by God, has God's vitality in it, and created for a purpose in creation. Here we are discussing the divine subject of divine providence in every single thing, and you just plucked a leaf, held it in your hand, played with it, and he tore it up into pieces. That was wrong. He was upset with his son, and of course taught us the importance that we should ever be light-minded about nature around us. So these words really left an impact on him. This is your host, Rabbi Pearl, wishing everybody a happy New Year for trees. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.